Have you ever wondered why Woody in Toy Story has a holster but no gun? Andy must have just lost it, right? Like he's a 5-year-old kid, it's a small accessory, and yet no, he definitely didn't. We know this because in Toy Story 2, when Al finds Woody, the very first thing he notices is that Woody is missing his hat.
If only you had your hand-stitched polyvinyl hat!
You see what I mean? There's no way he knows the details of the hat, but is also not upset about the missing gun. And we can trust that Al is an expert on the subject because he owns basically every single piece of Woody's Roundup memorabilia ever created. Which, upon closer inspection, you'll notice Woody is never featured with a firearm in the show or on any of the merchandise. Heck, in this giant cardboard cutout, the holster isn't even featured. But wait, actually, if we go back to that clip and just play it a little bit longer. Oh, what, are you kidding me? There's a toy gun as part of the memorabilia? Like, whose gun is that supposed to be? I'd say it's the Prospector's or Jesse's, except we see the Prospector mint in box and all of his accessories, which don't include a gun.
Prospector?
You're out of your box!
And Jesse doesn't even have a holster, and it's obviously not Bullseye.
Ah!
Although now that you mention it, Bullseye's name is Bullseye, as in the thing you aim at for target practice with a gun. So then Woody must carry a gun, but if so, then where is it? Why give him the holster if you're not gonna give him the accessory? Like, did Pixar just not want to show a gun on screen in a kid's movie? No, wait, that can't be it. Literally the very first character you see in any Toy Story movie holding a gun. Okay, so maybe they just didn't want the good guy carrying a gun? Well, but no, the Green Army men have guns, but I guess they can't shoot and they're not really like main characters. But then what about Buzz? He has a laser.
It's not a laser, it's a little light bulb that blinks.
Okay, sure, Woody, whatever. The fact is, it does still represent a weapon and he does still try to use it a lot.
I've set my laser from stun to kill.
Oh, Buzz is gonna kill someone. You see, it still doesn't work. In fact, Woody himself even still plays a game of draw with Etch, and Etch draws a revolver while Woody just uses his finger. I mean, heck, the first words we ever hear Woody even say are,
"Reach for the sky."
So like, what gives, Pixar? Why'd you give him the holster at all? I'll admit, I was stumped until I found this, buried deep in an old Toy Story 3 video game where you can collect Woody's Roundup cards, one of which is called Gunless Law. And that's when it clicked. Woody's holster isn't a mistake. It's a statement that Woody believes in nonviolent conflict resolution. It is a constant reminder to friend or foe of the kind of justice Woody believes in. But it did get me thinking.
Hey, thank you for joining me here on Conversations with Taz for Talk About It Tuesday. Sorry I couldn't be with you all yesterday. Your girl was extremely sleep deprived and fell asleep very early. So my apologies, but we're going to make up for it. Y'all know I always do. We might be a little extended, but we're going to get into everything that there is to get into. So let's start off with the get into of the get into. And as always, check the links in the description of this video. And if you're subscribed to this page and you click the little bell, then you've already seen the updates. But if you have not, you can always go to the playlist on this channel under news updates and get further context. Because some things are, they just run a little bit too long. But we know about the 6-year-old shooter Do we? Let's run it.
This is an unprecedented situation that we're dealing with. A 6-year-old. It is unprecedented. So there are some nuances here. Last Friday at Rich Neck Elementary School on January the 6th, at 1:59, a call came in and advised that a teacher had been shot, and there was no other information that came forward. Officers were dispatched at 2:00 p.m. Personnel to Rich Neck Elementary. At 2:04, 2 sheriff deputies arrived at the school and entered the classroom where the shooting took place. And about 8 to 10 seconds behind them, 2 officers entered. When they entered the room, they found a 6-year-old child that was being physically restrained by a school employee. The child became a little combative, actually struck the school employee that was restraining him, and officers then took control of him and escorted him out of the building, placed him in a police car with an officer inside and outside that vehicle. Once that had occurred, there was a systematic evacuation of rooms and hallways for safety. So we still weren't sure exactly what all we had at that point. Once the building was safe, forensics entered the classroom and processed the crime scene. I want to share with you what we recovered there. 1 spent shell casing, a backpack, a cell phone, and a 9mm Taurus firearm was recovered. The firearm was recovered close to the student's desk where the shooting occurred. Mrs. Zwerner was providing class instruction, and the 6-year-old child displayed a firearm, pointed it at her, and fired 1 round. There was no physical struggle or fight. She was providing instruction to her class. There was 1 round fired. Abigail took a defensive position, and what I'm sharing with you is because she has allowed me to share it. She took a defensive position where she raised her hand. The round went through her hand, exited the rear of her hand, and into her upper chest. And that's as far as I'm going to go with that. I'm not a physician, and the complications there, but that was the injury. She leaned back and took that round. She suffered a gunshot wound, but she was still able to get all of her students out of that classroom. The parents of the 6-year-old child were contacted by the police department and asked them to meet us back at police headquarters. They did so, and at that point is where we interviewed the child and his mother. We determined that the firearm was in the residence where they lived, and the child had obtained that firearm, placed it in his backpack, and brought it to school. He was brought to school that day by his mother later that morning. And it was determined we wanted to know about that firearm. It's one of the things that we did in our press conference. There was one of the questions I had. Where did that firearm come from? The firearm was legally purchased by the child's mother out of York County. I'd like to reiterate, I said that night, I just want to reiterate that this shooting was not accidental. It was intentional.
This is Abby Zwerner, a 25-year-old first grade teacher. On Friday, a fight broke out in Abby's classroom. It's not clear what the argument was about, but according to another student's mom, Abby told her students to run. It turns out, a 6-year-old student in Abby's classroom brought a gun to school. Abby tried to confiscate the gun from the student, but in the scuffle, she was shot. Thankfully, all the students managed to get out of the classroom unharmed. But police say the shooting was not an accident. Abby was rushed to the hospital with life-threatening injuries where she is still in critical condition. The community is outraged.
As I said it before, there are updates linked within the description of this video. This teacher, fortunately, is now in stable condition. She was able to sit up. When you saw in the prior video, she was able to ask about her students. What truly bothers me, we have become a society of victim questioners and victim blamers. Excuse me. I shared part of the update on a social media platform, and there were way too many people going, well, I want to know what she did to this child. She broke up a fight. after already witnessing that this child was troubled and taking it to the administration when this child had already just brought bullets into the class. See, y'all are asking the wrong questions of the wrong people to the wrong people at the wrong time. So you want to take away all the power, all of everything. And you don't want to fight for the proper legislation and the proper rules and the proper rulings. And then when things like this happen, you want to continuously blame the... That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. But you know what? This country has been so indoctrinated into the GOP bullshit that I don't even think that leftists realize that some of them have been indoctrinated into it as well. Let's take a look at the new GOP Congress. Let's do that.
So Republicans have just passed the new House rules for the 118th Congress. And what's in it? I'm glad you asked.
Moreover, House Republicans decry the weaponization of the federal government. Yet the Holman Rule would enable the federal government to be weaponized against any federal official who draws the wrath of the Republican majority. The Holman Rule would enable House Republicans to zero out funding for a criminal investigation into Donald Trump. The new rules would defund the Office of Congressional Ethics. The new rules would enable a member being investigated by the FBI to investigate the investigators investigating him. Mr. Speaker, so much for draining the swamp. I yield back.
So defunding the Office of Congressional Ethics? Well, George Santos would 100% approve of that. And investigating the investigators. Because when Republicans break laws and commit crimes, they're always the victims. That's the new rules package for you.
Well, hey there, y'all. So in today's Proving Who They Are news, y'all, this pathetic dung beetle stuck on its back is Kevin McCarthy. He's the Republican Speaker of the House. After selling his soul to the devil, aka the Freedom Caucus, Kevin has decided to start his tenure with a bang of his gavel by costing the country millions of dollars. So yesterday, the House Republicans passed their first bill of the 118th Congress by voting along party lines to cut $71 billion from the IRS. And it wasn't like they didn't know that, because before the vote, the Congressional Budget Office said the legislation would increase the federal deficit by $114 billion over the next 10 years. These funds had been approved last year during the Inflation Reduction Act. The IRS said that this money would be used to hire 87,000 new employees over the next 10 years, upgrade the agency's antiquated technology, and beef up enforcement of tax laws on taxpayers earning more than $400,000 a year. The vast majority of those 87,000 new jobs would have been in customer service to answer taxpayer questions. And others would be to replace the 50,000 IRS agents expected to quit or retire in the coming years. Republicans clutched their money bags tighter and went on a fear-mongering propaganda blitz to their voting base by arguing that that money would be used to harass middle-class taxpayers and create a shadow army to shake down small businesses with assault rifles. And Dung Beetle says, "You see, we believe government should be to help you, not go after you." See, his voting base thought that he was talking to them, but he was really talking to the corporate special interests and the lobbyists that help fund his campaign. Underscoring their fear-mongering, the former IRS commissioner appointed by Donald Trump stated that the new investments in his understaffed agency would make it even less likely for honest taxpayers to hear from the IRS or receive an audit letter. A spokesperson for the IRS stated that the IRS audits nearly 80% fewer millionaires than a decade ago, and the House bill would deny the agency much-needed resources to hire top talent to go after the $163 billion in taxes avoided by the top 1% annually. Thankfully, the Democrat-controlled Senate will put a kibosh on his plans. Democrat Senator Ron Wyden of Oregon said that this bill is going nowhere in the Senate.
Public position opposing the person that could be the speaker. Are you worried about retribution?
Man, I'm 6'2", 275. I'm not worried about that.
So the party that's supposed to be for the people is diminishing the people's access to making sure they properly pay their taxes. And then within videos in this description, and if you go to the playlist on this channel under news updates, yeah, you'll see everything you need to know currently about Mr. Byron Donalds and his misogynoir. And the fact that he loves to hold on tight to racial tropes as his whole identity. Because this is supposed to be an educated financial guru who said he's not worried about going up against the Speaker of the House after he went on national TV, I believe it was CNN, when he was first nominated to go against Kevin McCarthy for Speaker of the House. And he wasn't in agreement with it because he knew it was bullshit. He knew that he was just a black face that was around the same age and of Hakeem Jeffries. We know how that goes. But he did the whole slave master thing. Let me tell my height and my weight. I ain't scared of nothing. Then went on to say that he's a black man because he was raised in the inner city by a single mother. Baby, listen. But you're qualified for what? You're qualified for who? That right there. And if you go to the links that if you go to what I directed y'all to, I'm not going to expand upon them. Because anytime I do, when it comes to Republicans, I end up getting kicked off. But from one grand old grifter to the next, Marjorie Taylor Greene decided to fuck around and find out when it came to Dr. Dre. And I'm not talking about MTV Raps Dr. Dre. I'm talking to Dr. Dre, NWA, Dr. Dre. Fuck around and find out, Dr. Dre. You know what? Let's just roll the footage. I'll see y'all on 2 and 2. Y'all know how we do.
Okay, Marjorie Taylor Greene, the alt-right, ultra-conservative Republican from Georgia, tried to make a hype video to Dr. Dre's Still Dre, and the cease and desist letter he sent her is amazing. We write you on behalf of our client, Andre Young, aka Dr. Dre, composer and performer of the hit song Still Dre. You are wrongfully exploiting this work through the various social media outlets to promote your divisive and hateful political agenda. Mr. Young has not and will never grant you permission to broadcast or disseminate any of his music. One might expect that as a member of Congress, you would have a passing familiarity with the laws of our country. It's possible, though, that the laws governing intellectual property are a little too arcane and insufficiently populist for you to have really spent much time on. We're writing because we think an actual lawmaker should be making laws, not breaking laws, especially those embodied in the Constitution by the Founding Fathers. And lastly, the United States Copyright Act says a lot of things, but one of the things it says is you can't use someone else's songs for your political campaign promotions unless you get permission from that owner, a step you failed to take. I love it. No notes.
Dr. Dre forced her to delete the video. They took legal action so fucking quick. The IP lawyers slapped her with that letter, called Twitter, locked her out of account, and forced her to delete the video, or she wouldn't get access. Congressional account or not. Oh, I love that.
Now, Marjorie Taylor Greene's response was that, she would never play anything else from Dr. Dre because he's about that thug life and all. She didn't give a fuck about thug life or anything else when she was. See, isn't it amazing that the rampant racists and conspiracy theorists that use conspiracy theories to keep their foot on our neck always want to use our creativity, our artwork to convey their message, when there are plenty of songs made by white artists that feel the same way about them? Why don't they use them? Why don't they're not as catchy, they're not as popular, they're not gonna but Marjorie gonna lie and lie and lie, and y'all just watch it.
Marjorie Taylor Greene insists that she's turned over a new leaf. Let's check it out.
But in fairness, didn't you also say around that period that you had been a follower of QAnon conspiracy theories and you had rethought this and you were no longer influenced by the group?
Well, like a lot of people today, I had easily gotten sucked into some things I'd seen on the internet, but that was dealt with quickly early on. I never campaigned on those things. That was not something I believed in. That's not what I ran for Congress on. So those are so far in the past.
Cool. Hey, remember like a few months ago when Paul Pelosi was attacked by the guy wielding the hammer who'd been radicalized by QAnon and was reportedly yelling, "Where's Nancy?" And Marjorie Taylor Greene got really defensive about the mainstream media blaming Elon Musk for spreading misinformation that the attacker was Paul Pelosi's gay lover because, she probably believed that theory and at the very least was actively defending it. It wasn't QAnon per se, but don't kid yourself, Marjorie. You're still just as susceptible to really obvious and kind of hateful conspiracy theories as you were in the distant past of 2 years ago.
See, the constituents of the GOP don't realize just how much their representatives believe that they're freaking stupid and don't pay attention to anything. Because Marjorie Taylor Greene is the same person who said that the California wildfires were started by Jewish space lasers. She did run off of conspiracy theories. She's been on podcasts and has a podcast of her own where she perpetuates conspiracy theories from QAnon. But, just like the GOP is selectively back the blue, I wonder how much blue they're backing. I'm pretty sure Marjorie Taylor Greene will back this wholeheartedly because we have a cop that was trying to literally screw her way to the top.
Officer Megan Hall has left the streets of Tennessee shaking by her extracurricular activities. So an internal investigation has revealed that Officer Megan Hall has had relations with about 6 of her coworkers. Sergeant Lewis Powell was one of them and he was fired. Officer Larry Holliday, he was involved and he was also fired. Detective Seneca Shield was also dismissed. Officer Megan allegedly sent not suitable for work photos and videos to her coworkers. Officer Megan has allegedly had relations with her married coworker and his wife on multiple occasions. She allegedly went to hotels with her coworkers. They were getting hot and heavy in the police gym, and they were doing it at the police station while they were on duty to serve and protect.
Coming from DailyNationPakistan.com, Megan Hall, married police officer, fired for having intimate relations with cops. Because I know everybody is talking about it online, is talking about everybody else that got fired, and people are getting the wrong impression that she was able to keep her job or just walk away unscathed. Nah, Miss Mamas. A married female cop allegedly engaged in passionate romps with 6 male officers, including illicit on-duty liaisons, according to claims, which shook a small U.S. police station. According to WTVF-TV, Tennessee cop Megan Hall and her co-workers were accused of engaging in outrageous sexual antics, including emailing explicit photos, stripping off in a Girls Gone Wild hot tub party, and even having oral sex with 2 other officers at a police station. No wonder they can't solve a crime. They're too busy bumping uglies. And before y'all go, this is an isolated event. Nope. No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. I know someone personally that is now married to their mistress, and they were a cop. And you'd be amazed at how many family members tried to protect them. And before you go, well, you can't be fired for having an affair. You can be fired for fucking on duty. You can be fired for having sex at the police station in police cars. They just allowed this white woman to have enough dignity to walk off without it being plastered all over the media. Hence me saying, let me clear the air, because every reporting of it makes it seem like everybody else was fired but her. She was fired also. But before we move forward, let's get into this ad, because we do got to make some money. So I'll see y'all in 2 and 2. Y'all know what we about to do.
Have you guys seen these 2023 predictions that were made 100 years ago? Some of them are hysterical, but some of them are like eerily accurate. The first one just says no more hard work by 2023, and it says that we're not going to work more than 4 hours a day because of electricity. It also says that every city will be a spotless town. But oh no, this one says we should worry because men will be wearing curls and women will be shaving their heads. Which, this is the least of my concerns in the world we've created for ourselves. And then this one really doubles down on the curls for men. This one got really close, so it tried to predict our population in 2023 at 300 million people. And as of July 1st, 2022, we were at 333 million. This was a really ambitious one because flying had just been invented, but it said you'd be able to fly from Chicago to Hamburg in 18 hours. And we actually figured out how to do it in half that time. This one was kind of spooky because it says that people will not begin the day by reading the world's news, but by listening to it. I don't know if they predicted that NPR was going to have a whole podcasting arm, but that one is very accurate. And then this one has been freaking a lot of people out because it says watch-size radio telephones will keep everybody in communication with the end of the earth. In the early 1920s, you couldn't even dial phone numbers. You had to be connected to an operator every time you picked up the phone. So the fact that they predicted that we would have small phones that also broadcasted radio and talk on them, and we could call anywhere in the world, is like kind of amazing.
See, if predictions like this could happen, y'all could understand racism. Y'all could understand transphobia and homophobia. Just saying. But we're not done with the GOP yet. There's a secret memo out there, and we want to know who has it. Think I'm joking? Oh, I'm not the only one.
I think before I begin, I'd just like to ask any of my Republican colleagues whether anybody found the secret 3-page memo detailing all the concessions that were made to the most extreme elements of the Republican conference. Anyone? I heard that Speaker McCarthy told members during a closed conference meeting that there is no official document or 3-page addendum to the House Rules package detailing these concessions. But none of us ever said it was official. If it was official, it would have been in the official rules package. But I also took note of the fact that in Axios today, we saw this. It says, one thing the document doesn't contain, according to NRCC Chair Richard Hudson, who said that he's seen it, is promised committee chairmanships for specific members, quote, no names, just representation on panels, end quote. So we were able to find out from Mr. Hudson what's not in the in that secret memo, but it would be helpful maybe before the end of the day if we could actually get the document so that the American people know what was promised.
Because even if you're a GOP sycophant, wouldn't you want to know what was promised away? Because now you have a Speaker of the House that is Speaker in name only, not in power, not in anything else. Hope you weren't expecting change. Or maybe you've just been convinced that your whole existence should be owning the libs. How embarrassing for you. But here is one plus for everybody in the country. If you follow me on TikTok, then you already got the update that it came out that George Santos had a staffer that was pretending to be the chief of staff for the current Speaker of the House in order to grift people out of more money. So George Santos has no loyalty. If you haven't already figured that out. But guess what happened today? You know what? Don't even guess what happened today. I'm going to show you what happened today. Let's go.
Congressman, doing this in person?
We are.
What's the value of doing this in person?
The process requires us to deliver it in person.
Why is it important to do?
I think when you violate House ethics, you should be held accountable.
GOP leadership has said this is something they want to handle internally. What makes you think that this is going to do anything or move the needle?
We haven't seen a single movement on the part of Republican leadership. They have not commented on this publicly. They have not condemned George Santos and all of his lies. They have adopted him as one of their own. And in fact, George Santos cast the deciding vote for Kevin McCarthy so that he could become Speaker of the House. So they have wrapped their arms around him. We've seen no indication that they have done anything to rebuke him or handle it internally. This is the first time even hearing of that. So we, Congressman Torres and I, feel it's incredibly important to make sure that the integrity of the House and the integrity of its members are put first and foremost.
And if you go to the playlist under news updates, you'll see where they're trying to put George Santos on certain committees. The GOP is not looking to sanction him. The GOP is not looking to have him step down. They're sitting here telling you, oh, this is an embarrassment. No. The craziest of the craziest, the most detrimental to the United States government and to the United States people as a whole, they're trying to put on committees and remove people who have actually done the good work. Like I said, go the playlist entitled News Updates. Yet run, don't walk. You can always come back to this, even though I'm live right now. You I don't take anything down. I don't edit anything. But if you think that's the worst of the worst that's gone on today, let's talk about SCOTUS v. unions.
As we speak, the Supreme Court is hearing arguments for companies to be able to sue workers who go on strike. Right now, they're hearing them. They will be able to sue unions for lost profits if they go on strike. This will effectively make unions gone. Capitalistic corporate America. This means companies will never have to negotiate with a union. Go on strike. We don't care. We'll just sue you for any profit that we lost because we refuse to give you health care or a livable wage. They will be able to take away your 401k or your pension because if you try to go on strike, they'll sue you. You know what that is? That's fascism. That's indentured servitude. Workers will have no more recourse when a corporate greed takes away their ability to live.
That's not indentured servitude because there's no time limit on it. And people have to work in order to sustain themselves in a capitalistic society. That is slavery. And because slavery was never abolished, I know you were taught in school that, oh yeah, it was abolished with the third. No, the parameters changed. And they're trying to change the parameters once again, where you will not have a choice. You will not be able to speak up for yourself. You won't be able to take a day off. Like, this is what they're creeping up to. You will become the Oompa Loompas of Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. And before you go, oh, Taz, you reach it. No, I'm not reaching. Y'all were not taking these things seriously. And every time we tell you you're not taking these things seriously and you say that we're reaching, it comes to fruition. And then you sit there and go berserk and go, we're going to put on a costume and protest. No, you'll fuck up a city to try to prove that Black, Indigenous, people of color are the problem when we speak up to say, hey, don't kill us off. Stop abusing us. Stop doing this to us. But you'll fuck up a city because you lost a game or you won a game. Well, your favorite team did. But when it comes to actually having to stand up for a cause, all you do is cosplay. And speaking of cosplaying, y'all just gonna keep dying to protect a lie? Because I don't see Trump showing up to this funeral. But if he does, I'll eat my words. Just like in Hook.
So pro-Trump entertainer Diamond of Diamond and Silk, they are pictured here, died suddenly at age 51. According to this tweet, Diamond was allegedly hospitalized in late November, so roughly 5 to 6 weeks ago, due to COVID-19. The duo was actually fired by Fox News a couple years ago for spreading misinformation about COVID-19 and the vaccine safety. The former guy also sent his condolences yesterday evening, reiterating that Diamond's death was totally unexpected, probably her big and precious heart just plain gave out, suggesting that she had heart failure of some kind. Roger Stone also sent his condolences by resharing the former guy's post from Truth Social along with a picture of him with Diamond and Silk, with the comment, "My sister. R.I.P. my GF Diamond." Sadly, he has since deleted this tweet because he's a grown-ass white man using the word sister and girlfriend on the internet, and the internet told him that was bad. It's also worth noting that Silk, Diamond's sister, wasted zero time creating a Give, Send, Go to further grift off of their friends and followers to preserve Diamond's legacy. And clearly, this was a lucrative idea, seeing that in just under 7 hours, she's already raised $22,000. Many of you may not realize this, but Diamond and Silk were both registered Democrats in 2012. In fact, their first YouTube video was supporting the Black Lives Matter movement with a montage of police brutality. However, shortly after this, they threw their entire moral compass out the window and discovered that pro-Trump videos made them more money on YouTube. On November 2nd, 2016, Diamond and Silk appeared with Laura Trump, wife of Eric Trump, in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, on behalf of the Trump campaign, where they were paid $1,274.94, it's a weird fucking amount, for field consulting work by the Trump campaign. But this was a very lucrative decision, seeing that the controversial duo has now an estimated worth of $5 million. In fact, they've also made money through fans by meeting up with them and charging $50 a ticket to see them and $150 just to take a picture with them. I am so sorry for Diamond's death, and I am sure that her family, and particularly her sister Silk, are devastated at the loss. Anyone dying, let alone dying suddenly, is very traumatic to so many families that experience it and have experienced it for years before COVID-19 and the COVID vaccine. I'm also sad to see someone who already has extensive wealth using a family member's death to grift more money from fans and supporters. But this is the Republican way. They'll spread lies and disinformation to garner financial means and power. And even when it comes at a cost of their own lives, they'll still ask you for more fucking money. So, R.I.P. Diamond.
Anita Lynn Hardaway of the MAGA duo Diamond and Silk transitioned today. While her family has released no official cause of death, it was reported on November 30th of 2022 that Diamond had been hospitalized due to COVID-19. In the event that you are unfamiliar with the work of Diamond and Silk, please take a look at the next clip.
Twisted. That's right. Coming to build that wall. Now listen, he gonna put that wall up. Yes, he is. He gonna build that wall. He gonna build it.
With an estimated net worth of $6.5 million, many in her family and the world will mourn the passing of Diamond.
This is why we can't move forward. Too many Black people have realized how profitable it is to pander to the white gaze. And they know that their words are weaponized against the rest of us. Look how many times Candace Owens and her words are weaponized against the rest of us. They know. But let this be a cautionary tale. Why are you willing to risk your life and the grift keep grifting? She's dead. They should be mourning her and honoring her as she truly was, even if they have to pull the curtain back. But they're going to keep grifting. They'll pay to bury her. But the one thing they've learned from white supremacy tenets and tactics, from racial tropes, from the GOP, is stack your money and don't use your money for shit. So every time something comes up, and this is how this woman is going to be honored. Yet another grift, not coming up and talking about what she meant to them as a family member, as a friend. Just send us more money. But this is karma biting you in the ass. That your whole legacy, nobody's going to remember you, Diamond. And I mean no disrespect, but nobody's going to remember Diamond. All they're going to remember is Trump. The black Trump crony, the black Trump slave, the black Trump Sambo. That's all they're going to remember. And they're going to remember the additional grift that her family, that are now millionaires, grifted to bury her. And I bet you, whatever they collect through this crowdsourcing app, that will be the level of funeral that she gets. Not in accordance to her net worth, not in accordance to what they told her that she meant to them while she walked this earth. Because they switched up quick for that almighty dollar. It'll make you steal from your brother. But that's not the only person that Trump got fooled. Let's delve into another Trump cohort that's not even from the United States. I mean, he was in the United States for a period of time, but
all right, so I saw this and this really stuck out at me and kind of bothered me. So Bolsonaro was running for re-election in Brazil. I basically call him the Trump of Brazil because he has the same type of mentality as Trump and their friends. So he lost the election, and instead of staying and doing a peaceful transition of power, he fled the country. And where did he go of all places? To Florida. And he reportedly went to stay at Mar-a-Lago for New Year's Eve. Let's backtrack for a minute. Let's go back to 2021. 2 days before the January 6th insurrection, Eduardo Bolsonaro, which is the president's or the former president of Brazil's son, flew to DC unexpectedly. There was no meeting, there was no press release about it. He just decided to go to DC. And on January 6th, he posted a photo of himself with Mike Lindell with no reason for the meeting or whatnot. Fast forward a few months, and then it looks like Bolsonaro is trying to stoke what looks to be an insurrection or coup in his country. You even have people like Ali Alexander chiming in. And after he just lost the election in Brazil, he was also meeting with Steve Bannon and Stephen Miller. Not too shortly after that, his military tried to do a coup, which was unsuccessful, and he's fled the country in shame. Reported that he's staying with a Brazilian MMA fighter in Orlando from anywhere from 1 to 3 months, which we anticipated him to leave the country because he's going to be facing a slew of investigations as he was a very corrupt president. But of all the places that he chooses to go to less than a week before the anniversary of January 6th, it's just a little too coincidental to me. I don't know. They probably are up to something. That's just my opinion, but it's very, very odd nonetheless.
I think there was a lot of shock and awe when media reports came out and there were busloads of Brazilian insurrectionists been taken to jail. I think that Trump, his buddy, hyped him up and was like, oh, yeah, you can do this. And you don't have the same laws and restrictions that the United States has because, Trump should be trusted as far as foreign policies and foreign laws and how foreign governments and police work when he has no idea how any of that works within the United States. But, dumb recognize dumb and dumb coddles dumb. And they find solace in one another. So as Muscles and Nursing says on TikTok, I love this for them. I love this for them. Now, we know about the Mar-a-Lago files, and some people are trying to conflate the Mar-a-Lago files with what recently happened with Biden. But let's really pull this apart. Let's take this as pull apart pizza bread. Let's go through the layers.
Thanks to Hammy the attorney for pointing out this story on CNN, first reported by CBS. Classified documents from Biden's time as vice president were discovered in a private office that he had used. Attorney General Merrick Garland has asked the U.S. Attorney in Chicago to investigate the matter. The documents were in an office used at the University of Pennsylvania, where Biden was an honorary professor from 2017 to 2019. Fewer than a dozen classified documents were found at the office. It is unknown to what they pertain. The documents were discovered on November 2, 2022 by attorneys for Biden when they were cleaning out the office. The White House counsel's office notified the National Archives, and the archives took possession of the documents the next morning. Is this a good look for Biden? Absolutely not. Is it the same as Trump's documents at Mar-a-Lago? Absolutely not. As I have said many times in videos and on lives, had Trump merely turned over the documents that were asked for in May of 2021, it never would have become an issue. It's often not the act, but the cover-up that's the problem. In this case, the documents were found, NARA notified, and the documents turned over the next day. In the Trump case, the documents were requested, were not returned, then some were returned, it was certified that all had been returned, turns out not all of them were returned, and then even more were found recently in a storage facility. I still maintain that had the Trump documents simply been turned over in May 2021, there would have been no issue, and I don't think there will be an issue here for Biden, other than political fallout.
Some disturbing news being reported out of Washington, D.C. It looks like several classified documents have been discovered in an office in Washington, D.C. that had been used by President Biden in the period between 2017 and 2020. The documents apparently all date back to the period when Biden was vice president. The report is stating that the number of documents is about a dozen, to be precise, less than a dozen. The documents were found in a locked closet inside that office by Biden's attorneys, who were there to pack boxes as they were moving Biden's belongings out of that office into a new location. Now, it's obviously at the very least interesting that Biden's attorneys were tasked with packing up boxes to move out of that office, but this is what we know so far. We don't know the contents of the documents. We know they're classified. We also don't know why classified documents would be moved into a private office that, again, Biden started occupying only in 2017. We know that the attorneys that found the documents contacted the National Archives, who referred the matter to the Department of Justice for further investigation. One thing we know is that those documents were never object of any specific request by the National Archives. Now, these events are obviously, number one, troubling, number two, reminiscent of all of the issues pertaining to the Mar-a-Lago.
Okay, let's stop the bullshit. Biden's office that they found the documents in, it was less than 12, and most reports say that it was even less than 10. And this information was immediately turned over. This was an office that was a think tank. So, yes, these documents would have been necessary for the think tank, because most documents that are released to former presidents, former vice presidents, are used for think tanks, memoirs, etc. This information was immediately turned over, and people are like, well, why didn't the Biden administration make it immediately public? There's a whole nother organization that's involved in this. Do y'all think that maybe the rules and regulations prohibited him from doing that? I don't know 100%, but I've been involved in moving offices for myself, where documents according to a certain organization had to be moved. And there was a box or two that when we made the initial move, we took the pertinent current stuff, and then over the next couple of weeks, we brought over other stuff. Doesn't mean that we didn't think about it or forgot about it. I'm not saying that's the case here. Putting things in perspective. But I had contracts signed where I couldn't speak about stuff publicly, and I'm not a president. I'm not even a social media influencer, honey, where I couldn't talk about it. But the thing about it is, the chain of command wasn't broken. Everything was followed. Now, the members of the GOP that are amongst those that believe that conspiracy theories are fact, I get why their panties are in the bunch. But the rest of everybody, you know what? I watched the whole situation unfold on TikTok the other day, and people came out going, baby, I lose my debit card every other day. But y'all acting like this couldn't happen. Replacement printouts for when you lose your Social Security card is a regular, everyday thing. Let's stop acting like people are perfect because they have a title behind their name. And this was not nuclear secrets. This was not FBI, CIA agents in the field's name. This was not what Trump had. This was information for a think tank. And the fact that nothing has been reported in all this time that anything was missing. Catch what I'm putting down? No news outlets have said that they got inside information from these. Anywho, now the last time I talked about this heifer, I got accused of colorism. Yes, you're looking at it. You looking at me with my complexion, and I was accused of colorism because I brought up Gwen Stefani. But we're gonna still bring her ass up because she's full of shit today. So this gonna be our final story that we talk about, but we still gonna talk about it.
Gwen Stefani did an interview with Allure where they asked her about the Harajuku Lovers fragrance collection. In it, they asked her about the backlash she received and the lessons she learned from her problematic behavior during this era. You know, because during this era, she hired 4 Japanese backup dancers, renamed them after her album, and only allowed them to speak Japanese in public in order to promote both her album and her fragrance collection. Essentially, she used and treated 4 women of color as her personal props in order to make a profit. And now, in 2023, when she was asked about it, instead of recognizing her behavior, apologizing, and doing better, she decided to double down. Gwen Stefani told her interviewers, who both happen to be Asian women, that she is actually Japanese. She said that her father, who is Italian American, would travel to Japan and then come and tell her about the rich artistic culture that they have. And when she got to travel to Harajuku and saw the art for herself, she realized that she's Japanese and she didn't even know it. Essentially, she's saying that because she likes and identifies with Japanese art, that then makes her Japanese. Then she said that there's an innocence about her relationship with Japanese culture, and then she refers to herself as a super fan of the culture. color. Which is why she gets annoyed when people ask her about this, because she still believes that there's actually nothing wrong with how she treated these women. I want to remind y'all that she would take these women everywhere to red carpets, shows, and interviews. These women were not allowed to talk unless Gwen allowed them to, and when they talked, they were only allowed to talk in Japanese. Gwen Stefani, a white woman, completely dehumanized these 4 women of color in order to sell perfume in an album. And still, to this day, she sees absolutely nothing wrong with her behavior. She is absolutely disgusting.
But when Ariana Grande was brought up over a year ago on my podcast, and I said that Gwen Stefani was the originator of making it profitable and being excused and people making excuses for cultural appropriation, I was accused of colorism. Yeah, see, people love to toss out the word colorism, and so what part of this is okay? You didn't know that you were Japanese when you were doing it, but because you feel a close connection, now you're Japanese. What in the ultimate cultural appropriation? But it's just hair, right? It's just fashion. It's just the book. It's just a history, right? Until it's your books, your history, your hair, your culture. Interesting. And how embarrassing. But as always, thank you for joining me here for Conversations with Taz, specifically for Talk About It Tuesday. I will be here with you tomorrow with my co-hostess with the mostest, your favorite gender, Chris, for Get Into It with Taz and Chris. And as always, each one teach one, each one reach one.
What does it mean, Michelin star?
Michelin tires. It comes from the tire company.
Does it
Real
really?
sorry. It does.
It does.
Michelin started a guide where they're like, okay, we sell tires. We'll make a system where we'll give a bunch of recommendations of great places to eat for you to stop at along your trip using Michelin tires.
No.
1 star is just for great food. 2 stars is great food and great service. 3 stars is like the symphony of a restaurant being utterly perfect. Someone drops a napkin, it gets picked up within a certain amount of time. So it ended up becoming this really sort of difficult to acquire award, and human beings love that.